Look, I'm going to be straight with you. Someone probably told you to buy Bitcoin years ago when it was dirt cheap. But here's the thing. Bitcoin just became the 9th largest currency on the entire planet. And it did it in less than 16 years. No government signed it into law. No corporation launched it with a Super Bowl ad. It just happened, organically, because it solved a problem that humans have been struggling with for thousands of years. And if you still don't understand what Bitcoin actually is or why it matters, you're not alone. Most people who own it can't even explain it properly. But by the end of this video, you're going to understand Bitcoin better than 99% of people. And more importantly, you're going to understand why it might be the most important invention since the internet. So first, we need to talk about money, because you can't understand Bitcoin without understanding what money actually is. And most people never think about this. Money isn't real. Not in the way a tree or a rock is real. Money is a story we all agreed to believe. A mass hallucination. We decided that pieces of paper or numbers on a screen represent value. And as long as everyone keeps believing the story, it works. But here's the problem. That belief can break. And when it does, everything collapses. Germany in the 1920s, Zimbabwe in the 2000s, Venezuela right now. When people stop trusting money, civilization literally falls apart. You can't buy food. You can't save for the future. You're back to trading chickens for shoes. That's how fragile this system is. For most of human history, we used physical things as money: shells, beads, metal, and eventually, gold. Gold worked great for thousands of years. Why? Because it checked all the boxes. It's rare, but not impossible to find. It doesn't rust or decay. It's divisible. You can melt it down and split it up, and everyone recognizes it. From pharaohs to pirates to rappers, gold has always meant wealth. But gold has one massive problem. It's physical. You can't email gold. You can't send it across the planet in seconds. If you want to use gold, you need to trust someone to hold it for you and give you a paper receipt, a bank. And the second you do that, you're back to trusting middlemen. And middlemen always abuse that trust. Banks printed more receipts than they had gold. Governments raided the vaults and took the gold for themselves. And eventually, they just stopped pretending the paper was backed by anything at all. In 1971, President Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard completely. Suddenly, money was just paper, backed by nothing but a promise from the government. And governments break promises all the time. This is called fiat currency. Fiat means by decree. It has value because the government says it does. And here's the terrifying part. They can print as much of it as they want. And they do. Constantly. So we've got a massive trust problem. We need money to function as a society. But every form of money we've ever used requires us to trust someone. Banks, governments, middlemen. And they always screw us over. So the question becomes, is there a way to have money that doesn't require trust? Money that works peer-to-peer? Money that can't be printed, can't be frozen, can't be controlled by anyone? That's what Bitcoin is. It's the first money in human history that requires zero trust. Let me explain how. In 2008, someone using the name Satoshi Nakamoto published a paper online, 9 pages, called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Nobody knows who Satoshi is. Could be one person, could be a group, could be a time traveler for all we know. But whoever they were, they solved a problem that computer scientists had been trying to crack for decades. How do you create digital money that can't be copied, can't be counterfeited, and doesn't need a bank or government in the middle? See, the problem with digital stuff is you can copy it infinitely. Right-click, copy, paste. That works for memes and songs. But if you can copy money, it's worthless. I could just duplicate my Bitcoin 1,000,000 times and buy the entire planet. This is called the double spend problem. And it is why digital money always needed a middleman like a bank to keep track of who owns what and prevent people from spending the same dollar twice. Satoshi figured out how to solve this without a bank, and the solution is the blockchain. Big scary word, but it's actually simple. A blockchain is just a shared ledger, a giant scoreboard that everyone can see. Every time someone sends Bitcoin, it gets recorded on this ledger, and the ledger is stored on thousands of computers all over the world, all checking each other, all verifying that the transactions are legit. So if I try to send you 10 Bitcoin that I already sent to someone else, the network just says, nah, that's already been spent. No bank needed, no middleman. Just math and computers. But here's where it gets interesting. Who updates this ledger? Who decides which transactions are valid? Because if it's just one person, they could cheat. They could write, everyone sent me all their Bitcoin. So Bitcoin uses something called proof of work. And this is where mining comes in. Before we go any further, if this is starting to click for you, hit that subscribe button. This is Money Trap Channel. And every week we break down the systems that run the world. Money, power, control. The stuff nobody teaches you in school because they don't want you to know. This is real financial education. So subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because the next video might be the one that changes your life. Alright, let's keep going. So mining. What the hell is mining? It sounds like you're digging Bitcoin out of the ground with a pickaxe. But it's not that. Mining is how the Bitcoin network stays honest. Here's how it works. All the transactions that people make, sending Bitcoin back and forth, they get grouped together into a block. Think of it like a page in a ledger. Now, someone needs to add that page to the ledger. But who? Bitcoin turns this into a game, a competition. All the miners on the network, these are just computers running special software. They're all trying to solve a really hard math problem. It's basically guessing a password. A really, really long password with trillions of possible combinations. The first computer to guess it correctly gets to add the next block to the blockchain. And as a reward for doing this work, they get paid in Bitcoin. Brand new Bitcoin that's created by the network. That's mining. You're not digging up Bitcoin. You're securing the network and getting paid for it. Now, why all this complicated guessing? Why not just let anyone add blocks whenever they want? Because that would make it easy to cheat. But making miners burn electricity and computing power to guess a password? That's expensive. It keeps the game fair. You can't just spin up a million fake miners for free. It costs real money, real energy. And that makes cheating basically impossible. And here's the genius part. The difficulty of that password automatically adjusts. If more miners join the network and start guessing faster, the password gets harder. If miners leave, it gets easier. The result? A new block gets added to the blockchain roughly every 10 minutes, like clockwork, Bitcoin's heartbeat. Now, you might be wondering, what stops one person from just buying a million computers and taking over the whole network? Well, the difficulty adjustment helps. But there's something even more important: the incentives. See, if you try to cheat, if you try to add fake transactions to the blockchain, the rest of the network will reject your block. You'll have wasted all that electricity for nothing. But if you play by the rules, you get rewarded in Bitcoin. So it's more profitable to be honest than to cheat. The system is designed so that doing the right thing is the smart thing. Alright, so we've got a blockchain that tracks all transactions. We've got miners who compete to add blocks and keep the network secure. But there's one more piece that makes Bitcoin revolutionary: the 21 million cap. Unlike dollars, euros, or any other government currency, Bitcoin has a hard limit. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. Ever. That number is baked into the code. Nobody can change it. Not governments, not corporations, not even Satoshi himself, wherever he is. This makes Bitcoin the first form of money in history with absolute scarcity. Gold is scarce, but we keep finding more. We're even talking about mining asteroids for gold. Dollars? Governments print trillions whenever they feel like it. But Bitcoin? 21 million. That's it, no more. And that scarcity is what gives it value. Right now, about 19 million Bitcoin have been mined. The last one won't be mined until around the year 2140. And every 4 years, the reward that miners get for adding blocks gets cut in half. This is called the halving. It slows down the creation of new Bitcoin over time, which means the supply is predictable, transparent. Everyone knows exactly how many Bitcoin exist and how many will exist in the future. Compare that to the dollar. Do you know how many dollars exist? No, because the Federal Reserve doesn't even know. They just print more whenever they want. And every time they do, your dollars become worthless. That's inflation. That's the hidden tax they don't tell you about. A Bitcoin can't be inflated. The supply is fixed, which means if demand goes up, the price has to go up. It's basic economics. And that's why people who bought Bitcoin years ago are sitting on fortunes now, not because they got lucky, but because they understood the math. Now let's talk about how you actually use Bitcoin, because this is where a lot of people get confused. To send or receive Bitcoin, you need a wallet. But it's not a physical wallet. It's software, an app on your phone or computer. And inside that wallet are two things: a public key and a private key. Your public key is like your email address. You can share it with anyone. It's how people send you Bitcoin. Your private key is like your password. It's what lets you access your Bitcoin and send it to other people. And this is the most important thing you need to understand about Bitcoin. If you lose your private key, your Bitcoin is gone forever. There's no customer service number, no password reset. It's just gone. This is why Bitcoin is often called be your own bank. You have complete control. Nobody can freeze your account. Nobody can take your Bitcoin without your private key. But that also means you're responsible for keeping it safe. And people have lost billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin because they lost their private keys or got hacked. So if you're going to hold Bitcoin, you need to do it right. Most people start by buying it on an exchange like Coinbase or Binance. That's fine. But here's the thing. When your Bitcoin is on an exchange, you don't actually control it. The exchange controls it. They have the private keys. And if the exchange gets hacked or goes bankrupt, your Bitcoin could be gone. That's what happened with FTX. Billions of dollars of Bitcoin and crypto just vanished because people trusted a centralized exchange. So the smart move is to get a hardware wallet, a physical device that stores your private keys offline. That way, even if your computer gets hacked, your Bitcoin is safe. Alright, so let's zoom out. What is Bitcoin really? Bitcoin is a digital currency that exists on a decentralized network. It's peer-to-peer. You don't need a bank or government to use it. It's secured by proof of work. Miners compete to add transactions to the blockchain and keep the network honest. It has a fixed supply. Only 21 million will ever exist, and it's trustless. You don't need to trust anyone. The math guarantees it works. For the first time in history, we have money that belongs to nobody and everybody. Money that can't be printed, can't be frozen, can't be controlled. And that's why Bitcoin matters. It's not just an investment, it's a revolution. It's opting out of a system that's been designed to steal from you slowly through inflation. It's taking control of your own wealth. Now, I'm not telling you to go dump your life savings into Bitcoin. That's not financial advice. But I am telling you to pay attention. Because whether you believe in it or not, Bitcoin isn't going anywhere. It's been declared dead hundreds of times. And every time, it comes back stronger. Because the idea is too powerful, the math is too solid, and the need for it is too real. Look, there's so much more to this. How Bitcoin is being adopted by countries. How it's being used to escape authoritarian regimes. How it's changing the entire global financial system. That video is up next on your screen. Watch it, because understanding Bitcoin isn't optional anymore. This is the future of money. And the people who understand it early are going to be on the right side of history. Drop a comment. Tell me, do you hold Bitcoin? Do you think it's the future or just hype? I read every single one. Until next time, stay sharp.